In the dark, dark tomb there was a dark, dark street, and in the dark, dark street there was a dark, dark office. In the dark, dark office there were some dark, dark stairs, and down the dark, dark stairs there was a dark, dark room, and in the dark, dark room was where the worst wrestling tropes go to die.
Hello, I'm Ross Tweddell from Cultaholic Wrestling, and welcome to the latest thrilling installment of Straight to Hell. This is the show, of course, where my illustrious guests, they have a list of pet peeves about life as a professional wrestler, and they want to send those pet peeves straight down to hell to rot for the rest of eternity. Now, ahead of MLW's Fightland 1-hour Vice TV special, which is airing just after Dark Side of the Ring on Thursday, October the 7th, we have Bobby Fish. How much fish could a Bobby fry fish? If a Bobby Fish could fry fish, you see, I can't do it now, and I can't do it at the start of the episode either. I'm useless, me. Over to Bobby and Ross. So, Bobby Fish, thank you so much for joining us today. How the hell are you doing?
I'm good, sir. How are you?
Lovely, thank you very much. But there's only one place I can start, and I'm very sorry for starting here. But how much fish could Bobby fish fry? I've made a mess of it already. How much fish could Bobby fry?
Did.
Whatever. You know what I'm saying? Can you fry a lot of fish?
Made a mess of it.
God, I can't. It's just Geordie tone. I can't speak English properly, Bobby. But can you fry a lot of fish?
I can. Would I or do I? No. I haven't eaten meat or dairy or and including fish in almost a year now.
Bloody hell! You wouldn't expect any professional wrestler to say that, but I feel it's a growing trend, is it, in wrestling, that meat's sort of leaving diets here, there, and everywhere?
I mean, it had very little to do with the industry for me. It was something my girlfriend and I decided to do, and stepdaughter, after seeing a few documentaries on the old Netflix, you know. Yeah,
massive perspective changer. But obviously, we're here to speak about MLW. As we're sat here now, we're a couple of days away from your big debut happening. Could you just sort of tell us how the move to MLW came about?
I had a conversation with them, obviously, after things ended where I was. And so after taking a little bit of time to figure out where I was going to, what direction I was going to move in, they were one of the people that had some options. And so as far as the first couple out of the gate, you know, they ended up being one of them.
You're in the Opera Cup with Lee Moriarty, your first opponent there, so a very difficult place to start, I guess, for MLW.
Yeah. I mean, that was part of what was attractive to me. Taking some work with them was that they do have a high level of talent there. I think that my strengths cater to a certain style, and I like to. I think there's a lot there that. From a talent standpoint that I will mesh well with and match up well with.
So hypothetically speaking, you get past Lee in the first round. You could either go on to face the likes of Tom Lawler, Davey Richards, Calvin Tankman, Matt Cross. Who are you fancying taking on, potentially, if you do make it past the first round?
Really anybody. I've said this a couple other places, but Tom and I have a little bit of a history. I would love to face Tom. He was actually, before I went to WWE, he was one of, if not my last independent booking. It was a singles match with Tom. It was somewhat unexpected, and I think it really it went really well, and I think we would add to that. So Tom for sure. Davey Richards, Matt Cross, both guys that I have crossed paths with in the past and had, memorable encounters with, and I would see nothing different there. So any of those three, I guess some of the others I am not quite as familiar with, and no disrespect, just, just a lot on my plate.
The best way to be, isn't it?
I think so. I keep telling myself it is, at least. When I can't sleep at night, then I probably feel differently.
Yeah. Could you shed some light on the sort of the details of your deal with MLW? Is it a sort of per appearance thing, or are you signed for a prolonged period of time? What's the score there?
We have some appearances booked out, and we're going from there. Like MLW is a place I definitely was interested in working, and like I said, they had the availability. I had the availability, so it matched up well, and we're kind of going from there. I am very much, for lack of a better term, the independent contractor or gun for hire, or however you want to look at it, and I think that's the best place for me at the moment is that, because this is still relatively new for me, leaving where I was, and getting back out, and kind of just getting reintroduced.
Yeah, so naturally I've got to ask now, where else are you setting your sights on in the world of professional wrestling? Is it Ring of Honor? Is it AEW? Is it New Japan? What's going on?
Again, I'm fielding all offers at the moment. Just trying to get it sorted out, see what works best for. There needs to be a balance, and what's going to work best, not only for me where I am in my career, but for my family too.
Yeah, definitely. And just speaking on the main event of Fightland, we've got Alex Hammerstone taking on Jacob Fatu, title for title. Just want to get your thoughts on that one, because those are two massive, very powerful men just going to smack the shit out of each other.
Yeah, lots of meat in that one. I don't know. I will probably watch from a distance.
Fair dues. And what do you see happening for MLW going forwards with you there in the company? Is it just where you can take it from here on out? What's the sort of goal for you in MLW?
I'm trying not to look past anything, and right now the Opera Cup, which is such a big deal for them, so it's my job to make it a big deal for me. I'm really not looking beyond the Opera Cup, to be honest.
Fair dues. And I've got to ask you about your time in NXT. Were there ever any plans to get Undisputed Era on the main roster?
There were all sorts of plans at all different times, and things. There's an ebb and a flow to the industry, and that there certainly is there in that company as well. And anything can happen, and lots of things change, overnight, as you can see. I think there was definitely conversation, and that possibility was probably stronger at some times than it was others. But I don't know, just thinking back to when we did some stuff on Raw, we did some stuff on SmackDown. The reaction was ample. Even when we went to the UK and did the NXT run in there, I feel like the name of the game in this business is to get a reaction, positive, negative, whatever it is, but it needs to be a reaction. And I think the Undisputed Era, we got a reaction always, whether it was any combination of us, or obviously collective. Right from day one.
Yeah, definitely. Was there any sort of particular reason why those plans didn't come to fruition? Because it seems like it was just a thing that was going to happen eventually, getting you on the main roster, where arguably you should have been just at the top of the card there.
Yeah, I think that's, probably questions that could be answered by somebody above my pay grade, or what my pay grade was. I don't really know. That stuff's out of our hands.
I've got to touch on the breakup as well at Vengeance Day. I saw an interview with Adam Cole, who said it was you had a sort of a booking meeting on the day of the show, and it was sort of decided there the breakup would happen. How was that from your perspective? Was that just sort of like, a bit of a heavy thing to handle, or was it sort of like, oh yeah, it's time to do it?
I think it would obviously be somewhat heavy, just because regardless what direction we were going in, those were and remain to this day three of my closest friends, especially in wrestling, but just in general. I think that's why the whole thing worked as well as it did. So it made going to work not really like going to work. I was just kind of hanging out with my buddies. So it's hard not to be a little disappointed when they talk about splitting that up. However, it coming together the way that it did, and it was kind of okay, well, we're going to pull the trigger on this. I think we were all up for the challenge of trying to go separate ways with it. I think there were people that had our best interest in mind, and so I think we felt safe in that regard as well. And we just trusted the people we were working for and working with, and we were ready to move forward however they wanted to do it, and see where things I don't want to say ended up, because they never end up, they just transition. And whether that would have been, who knows. It did, it did, like everything in wrestling, it changes, and that's kind of what happened. Yeah.
And speaking of transitions, what are you making of the shift in focus for NXT today? It's sort of gone from the sort of work rate, if you want to, back to sort of more character-driven people on the roster now. What do you make of all that?
It's what it is. Everything needs to evolve, and that seems to be the evolution that's going on in NXT. And it's the people who make those decisions, like, it's for them to decide, and that's just the direction that they want to take it. And for some people, yeah, that's their cup of tea, and then for others it might not be. So it's for everybody to make a decision and choose, okay, I like this or I don't like this, and you make that decision by watching or not watching, I suppose.
And could you have seen yourself fitting in there if you were given a sort of a proper throwback gimmick that was sort of completely foreign to everything we've seen from you in your career so far? Could you see yourself pulling off something like that was so far removed from what we've seen from you so far in your career?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to give myself too much credit, but I think I am pretty versatile. I don't know how much of that I showed in my time in WWE, but I wasn't asked to show that versatility. Like, I was asked what appeared to me to show a very specific thing in our group, and I was happy to settle into that position and be that. Like, not, no, I need more spotlight, or I need more this, or I need more that. No, I like, if this is you're who's paying me and this is what you're asking me for, like, I'm going to give you the best that I can give you. So that's what I did. I think I could have transitioned, but it didn't, that's not how things ended up, so, and that's okay. That's okay for both sides.
And just finally, before we get going with the straight to hell portion of the show, I read with Adam Cole saying that the Undisputed Era especially got to do a lot of collaborative stuff with creative backstage in NXT, whereas some other people on the roster maybe were just sort of told that's what you're doing. What was that like for you to sort of, because we obviously on the outside as fans hear about creative strife and struggles of talent. How was that being sort of on the opposite side of that fence, if you want?
To have some of the people that were in charge being who they are, knowing who they are, myself, and growing up, some of these people, we watched. I mean, to have their trust that they were willing to come to us with what was written, or what was, where the direction we were going, but then allow our input, not only allow it, but respect it, ask for it sometimes, and allow it to have an impact on what actually gets done. That in and of itself is humbling. Yeah. This is a tremendously creative business, and to have the opportunity to collaborate as opposed to, getting your marching papers and then going and walking through those is, that's a lot of trust. And the fact that some of those people trusted us the way that they did, like, that's a career highlight for me.
Definitely sounds great. Just finally got a touch on Adam Cole. What do you make of him just making the world melt over the past month or so?
Yeah, I mean, he's so talented, and he just looks happy. And that was the first thing I noticed, was how happy he looked. I caught the debut maybe a day removed, so I was out of town, and he just looked happy. And then when I've spoken to him since, like, he sounds happy. So that's all I want to see for my friends, even, you know, Kyle and Roddy that are still there, and Adam, who is now with AEW, and, you know, other people that I just want them to be happy. So it's, I couldn't be happier for him and what he's doing right now.
Definitely. Right then. So we've got a few things, pet peeves about the world of professional wrestling, life as a professional wrestler that you can send to hell and see rot for the rest of eternity. What's your first offering to go down to hell, please?
Okay. First offering would be, so poorly thrown kicks, period. If you're not a martial artist, stay out of the lane, because it really, really just, I don't know, for me as a performer and a fan and straddling that fence, like, God, does it sour what I'm watching for me. If when you throw them, I can tell, okay, you're throwing them because you watched somebody else throw them and you haven't put in the reps. Like, it's obvious. You cannot, you know, what we do is what we do, and it's its own animal, but you can't ad lib or make up or pretend with everything. So if it's not what you do, leave it for the people that do train it, that do put the reps in, so that theirs look the way they're supposed to. And if you're on the card with that person, or God forbid you're in the ring with that person, like, you're only doing yourself a disservice by throwing your kicks when the other guy is going to throw, or somebody else on the card is going to throw things that are just better.
How commonplace is this in professional wrestling today? I get because obviously I'm sat here as just a wrestling fan. I've got no idea what a good kick is and what a bad kick is. Does that make you angry?
Well, and that's where I think, like, I may be in the minority, and I accept that. I'm a stickler for technique, and you know, whatever your thoughts are on that, I'm aware of that. I could very well be in the minority. I appreciate the effort that goes into learning how to do those things well. And then that's what pro wrestling is. It's like, find your lane, and then it's the clash of styles. You know, that's what makes this fun. You know, that's why Dusty, you know, versus Flair always worked, because they didn't do the same things. You know, Ric Flair wasn't doing a bionic elbow and bumping the whole ring, you know, on a comeback. I don't know. Yeah.
You mentioned the clash.
First and foremost.
You mentioned,
go ahead.
No, sorry. You mentioned the clash of styles there. We often hear about people in the performance center, especially, all sort of being told how to wrestle in the WWE style, if you want. What is that true, first and foremost? And what do you make of that, if so?
I think there is a style, and I think it depends on where you are in your journey in pro wrestling. And I think this is really an important detail, and it's difficult to grasp. But I think that there's a portion in the beginning of your journey where you have to learn how to do pro wrestling. You have to learn how to do pro wrestling things. And there is a right and a wrong way to do a lot of those things. I think WWE does have some of what they like when it comes to that. And there is a right way to do those things. And I think then as you progress, you know, and I don't want to put a number of years on it, but I guess because that's quantifiable, let's do that. Then, you know, a few years in, once you've got a grasp on that, it's for you as the performer to look into what you bring to pro wrestling that is different. So for me, it was always, not always, but for a long time, it was martial arts. And still is, to figure out what that is that you do so well that, like, you could do it in your sleep, that you've done, you know, 10,000 reps of it. You know, I think it was Bruce Lee that said, fear the man that knows, or that hasn't thrown 10,000, or that doesn't, not the man that knows 10,000 kicks, but that's thrown one kick 10,000 times, that kind of thing. Yeah. Figure out what that is, and then find ways to apply that and it doesn't have to be martial arts, but just, figure out how to apply that stuff to the pro wrestling. But you have to have a grasp on the quote unquote pro wrestling first. So without that base, I think some people get the cart before the horse, and then that's where things really kind of go awry. And I think that's kind of what WWE is trying to do is to get you before you're trying to run and teach you how to walk.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Just to ask you, not asking for any names, of course, but have you ever seen someone in a match throw a kick that you just weren't happy with and you felt the need to just go, I'm not going to stand for that backstage? Sort it out, will you? Have there ever been that sort of confrontation backstage from yourself?
No, because pro wrestling is just so subjective, and it, who made me the authority on throwing kicks? Like, I'm kind of making myself that authority, but that authority will live only in my head. So know that if you go out there and you throw them poorly, if I'm watching, probably not going to be a fan of your stuff. But I'm not, unless you come up and ask for my opinion, I'm not going to give it, because it's just not for me to kind of impose that on people. I think it's reminiscent of, well, that's a whole nother conversation, but yeah, it just it'll exist in my head for the most part. So yeah, there have not been a lot of those. I have had people ask though, and I've tried to be honest with people, and there's subtle details that, like, if you're not getting them right, just go practice, go take class or find some stuff online and just get better.
Yeah. So there we go. We go sort of surmising this is improper technique getting sent down to hell, sorry?
For sure. Poor technique.
So that's gone straight down to hell. What's your second offering, please, there, Bobby?
It's kind of a similar, but just, and this one I try not to be so guilty of myself, but just improperly applied submissions.
Another thing I would not be able to tell you if it was good or if it was bad. as a bog standard wrestling fan.
Again, I feel like find a place to get the reps, and then we can paint with whatever brush we want to paint with. So paint with the ones that and if there's one that you really like do the research on it and figure out how to do it, and then apply it properly or as properly as you can. I don't know. I'll say, and I'm a big fan of his work anyway, but Kyle O'Reilly, who, I have tagged with forever, and Kyle is very versed in jiu-jitsu, and I'm not going to roll out his resume, but it's high end. And so when we tagged, mine is not as high end, but I know some. So I tried to leave a lot of that for him. Now I'll go out there and throw the kicks and the punches, because I've been doing that since I was a kid. But some of that other stuff, like the real intricate transitions and whatnot, like, I don't know. I don't think the place for you to do that for the first time is in a wrestling ring, on TV, or in a performance, whatever. Like, get those reps, because your body's going to look awkward otherwise.
Yeah. I don't want you to peel back the curtain too much, but I marvel at the sort of transitions that happen on the mat, especially where there's all sorts of roll throughs and stuff like that. How much sort of preparation is there that goes into that sort of stuff? Because it seems like it would take, it's sort of like a dance routine, not reducing it to something that it's not, but it seems like a proper complicated dance routine. How much work goes into that sort of stuff mid-match?
Well, again, I think that's where the reps come in, because it's not actually paint by numbers, and it's not a routine. When guys are flowing like that, that's where you have to put the reps in. That's what I'm talking about. Like with Kyle in particular, his transitions and whatnot are seamless because he's done them 1,000 times, if not more, while training jiu-jitsu. Like there's a certain body familiarity and muscle memory that exists within that ebb and flow, and having that is what makes this stuff look seamless, and it doesn't look like it's your first time doing it. And that's the key, in my opinion. Same thing with throwing kicks and strikes. If you go out there and you've only thrown the technique even 25 times, your body's not familiar or comfortable enough with it for you to go showing it off on TV. It's just not. You might think it is, but it's not.
So we've got Kyle up on there on the pedestal. Who else in the world of wrestling do you look at doing these sort of maneuvers and thinking, you know what you're doing there? You know what you're doing?
So I will say this specifically. There were matches with Kyle and Finn that there was a bit of a style, like two different styles going on there. However, Finn, I don't believe does much jiu-jitsu or anything, but he had a way of just being able to roll with it and hang and transition and let Kyle was able to do his thing, and Finn was doing his thing, and it was just, just being a pro. So I will give, kudos there for sure, because it was something that might have been a little bit foreign to him, but he was able to just go with it. He's, fantastic in that way, seeing that. Trying to think of who else blends the martial arts really well with it. Obviously I think Tom Lawler does a good job with it. Low Key has always done a great job with it. Samoa Joe is great with that blend. Yeah, those are a few right off the top of my head.
Definitely. Right then. So we've got improper submission technique down in hell as well.
Yes,
right?
sir. Yes, sir. Yes,
so
sir.
What is your third offering, please, to send down straight to hell?
Okay, this has happened numerous times, and it's in a similar vein. So I'm sorry to beat the I believe the horse is dead, but we're going to continue to beat it. So commentary will pitch to, they're heading into commercial, and commentary pitches to so-and-so warming up for their match. And then you just see some of the most god-awful shadow boxing you've ever seen in your life. And it's like, okay, first off, it's pro wrestling. You're not boxing. I do get what you're going for. And I would do the same thing. Like, cause that's how I warm up before I go out. Like, you could ask people who've been in the back with me, and I'm not looking for a badge of merit here, but like, that's just how I warm up. That I will shadow box, but I do it because that's what I've done since I was 8 years old. It's the quickest way for me to get warm. But they'll pitch to somebody, and whew, is it bad? And it's another one of those no-brainers where I just think to myself, like, okay, if this is the 10th time you've done this, the fact that logically it doesn't occur to you that, like, maybe I shouldn't do this on TV yet, I don't know, just makes me scratch my head a little bit.
So you say people are pitched to shadow box before we go to commercial break. Is that sort of they're being told to shadow box, and they're maybe like, oh no, I don't want to do it, but they have to?
No, I don't think so. No, I think it's your choice. And they've, when you're going to and that you're told, like, okay, there's going to be a warm-up shot, like, at least in my experience, you're left to do whatever you want. You can do push-ups, you can do squats, you can hang upside down. You can, if it's something really out of the ordinary, I'm sure that you might have to clear it with people, but, I think for the most part, you're left to your own devices. And then that's where, like, I got to scratch my head, because if you don't do boxing or kickboxing or something, like, why would you choose to do this thing? Like, boxers, when they show them warming up, they're doing that because that's what they do. Mm-hmm. It just doesn't, I don't know. It's just, yeah. Again, I might be in the minority, but a big pet peeve.
Nah, man, if this is your perspective, go for it. This is a very different perspective to Straight Hell I've ever had before. It's very interesting stuff. As I say, it's stuff that me as a fan, just a bog standard wrestling fan who's not really sort of into fighting, I would never ever pick up on this stuff. So it's interesting to hear.
Yeah. Again, I think I'm the minority for sure.
So we got 3 things there in hell. Can I push you for a couple more? I'm very wary that we're getting on for time here.
I think the day of the chair shots, maybe we're ready to let those go. I think with what we know about blunt force trauma at this point and whatever, and the way that everybody has tried to take those things into consideration is good, but at the same time, it makes it a more difficult sleight of hand, so to speak. And maybe we just don't need it anymore.
It's the interesting thing about chairs. I've spoken to a few wrestlers who say that even though chairs are maybe the most commonplace weapon we see in professional wrestling, it's definitely the one that hurts the most, which is a weird thing to sort of wrap your head around.
I honestly don't know that you can quantify and put like what hurts the most, because it really depends on how you receive it. I guess there's just some unpredictability when it comes to the chair. Who's swinging it, how they're swinging it. You know, and there was a time, you know, I know the wrestling I watched growing up, like, I guess we were, you know, there was just, people didn't know what they know now. Mm-hmm. So I think we're guilty if we haven't learned from mistakes of the past.
And I've got to ask, because I heard Diamond Dallas Page speaking about, I think it was when he was doing stuff with Karl Malone on WCW and Dennis Rodman, they had to do some sort of chair shot thing. And it was just sort of a gentleman's agreement backstage, right? I'm just going to swing as hard as I can here, and I'm very sorry what might happen. Is that still sort of the case today, or has things completely changed since that sort of mindset?
You know, these days I don't encounter a lot of chair situations. So I don't know specifically with that, but I know from a wrestling standpoint, depending on who you're working with and how familiar you are with that person, how long they've been doing it, because I think that there's only so much expediting of the learning process you can do. So when it comes to like making contact in general and being safe, I think there's different levels of comfort when it comes to that. And I know myself, like, I didn't get into this because it was ballet. Like I you know, I hate to put it this way, but I like to get hit. I want to get hit. I think there should not be daylight in what we do. But there's a reasonable way to do that. And I think you got to find that balance between making the best you can of the art form without stopping somebody from being able to work the next day.
Yeah, so there we go. Chairs have gone straight to hell to rot for the rest of eternity, Bobby. Can I push you for one more thing, maybe?
Bad gear. That's just especially if you're going to be on a TV product, like, know that eyes are going to be on you. Like, get yourself some good gear. You know, it's going to cost a little bit extra. It's going to add to the overhead, but it's going to go a long way as far as your invest in the long term, not the short.
What's Bobby Fish's least favorite kind of gear then? What are you saying here is bad wrestling gear?
Oh, bad kick pads are, because I had some when I first got started myself. There were a few that I was lucky enough to eventually find a gentleman in Japan who makes my kick pads to this day. And bad kick pads, they've gotten much better, but I've seen some bad ones over the years.
Fair dues. I don't know what to say there. Bad gear just should go to hell, shouldn't it? I don't know. How much sure. Could you put a figure potentially how much money you've spent on gear during your career? Because I've had Will Ospreay on. And yeah, the money he spent on his gear, and he's, but younger, I guess, and had less years in the business. So I can't imagine someone of your experience has spent on that gear as well. I'm thousands. And it just is. And you find somebody who does it well. It's good craftsmanship. The gentleman that I use, he's fantastic. But he's expensive. But it's one of those things. It's like getting a tattoo. Like, you accept the fact that, like, okay, I'm going to pay for good work. Yeah, definitely. And is there any sort of... Or you're going to have a bad tattoo. And just, is there any sort of thought process that goes into what kind of gear you want to wear as a wrestler? Or is that just sort of like, what feels better when it's on your body? If that makes any sense. That came out weird. No, I think very much. There's a huge thought process in it. And I know, like, as a kid, being a fan, like, I noticed the little things. I noticed when guys wore different gear for this match or different for this, and like, I specifically coming up, like, there's a reason, at least in my own head, for why I wear kick pads. There's a reason for why I wear biker tights instead of regular tights. All of those things were conscious choices on my part. Definitely. So there we go. That was Straight to Hell with Bobby Fish. Bobby, can you tell us once again about MLW Fightland, what to expect, where to find it, all that good stuff?
It is this Saturday. This will be Lee Moriarty, right? Am I saying that correct?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
That's my first round opponent. There will be other first round matches that evening. There will be the Opera Cup, which is the biggest tournament of MLW each year. It'll be airing on Vice TV, and yeah, it's not something you want to miss. I mean, it's a stacked lineup. We talked about some of them before, but you got TJP, Matt Cross, Alex Shelley, Tom Lawler, Davey Richards. I don't think I really need to go far beyond those names that I've named. But yeah, and more.
2 big men in the main event as well. Plenty of meat being slapped.
Yes,
there we go.
Yes. 2 huge, lots of girth in that main event.
There we go, Bobby. I kind of thank you enough for your time. Really appreciate it. I've been Ross from
Yes,
Cultaholic, and that was Straight to Hell. We'll see you on the next one.